Welcome. It's Wednesday, January 27th, 2010. I'm Rob Booker, and we're here at FX Street. Glad to be back with you again. Adinda, thanks for helping out this morning. Good morning, Maud. It's always good to see you. And there's my chart. And we were looking at the dollar Canadian together. We didn't get even a chance to cover that in particular. The U.S. dollar Canadian dollar 5-minute chart has been away from the 800 simple moving average for over 1,700 candles. That's extraordinary and much different than usual. Chris, actually, Mystic FX, brought this to my attention this morning, and definitely interested in this, absolutely positively interested in this. Here's what I'm seeing a little bit closer up. The currency pair has obviously been away for 1,700 and almost 50 candles. We get excited about looking at a currency pair when it's been away from the 800 simple moving average for longer than 500 candles. And when it gets to 1,000 candles, we get extraordinarily interested because this is an early warning sign that the currency pair wants to go back to the 800 simple moving average. The 800 simple moving average is down at about 1.0600. The currency pair is trading right now about 50 pips higher than that. A reasonable entry on a trade like this, in my opinion, would be something below this level right here, and then a stop loss just above the candles where it's at right now. You have a reasonable risk-to-reward ratio, and you have a trade that may not open at all right now. It could just launch up higher, so there's no risk in watching it for just a short period of time. Chris also mentions something really brilliant, that once you take a trade like this, it can blend into a trade on the longer-term chart. The 15-minute chart has been away from the 800 simple moving average for about 530, 540 for some of you probably, candles. That means that we're not only set up to go short on the 5-minute chart, but we're also set up to go short on the 15-minute chart. And a 5-minute trade can blend into a 15-minute chart trade. So we've got a couple things going on there at the same time. The 15-minute chart has a profit target way down here at 1.0450, and that is way down there. So we're looking at a trade with a profit target of more than 100 points, which is absolutely fantastic. We could also draw a trend line underneath these candles here, and you'll notice that there's a trend line. I'm even going to color this trend line blue that tracks pretty nicely along with the 200 simple moving average. And that trend line tracks along the 200 simple moving average, and it tells me that it's probably a good idea, if you're looking at the 15-minute chart trade, that an entry doesn't come on that trade until the currency pair falls and closes below the 200 simple moving average and the 200 simple moving average. So that would be the entry on the 15-minute chart. However, on the 5-minute chart, we really don't have to wait that long because we've got a trend line a little bit higher up, and the 200 simple moving average is a little bit higher up. Right now, the currency pair is launching upwards, but that's typical for the U.S. dollar, Canadian dollar. It's going to do all kinds of crazy things before it ever settles down and just gets itself organized and set. Let's cycle through some more 5-minute charts and potentially even some additional 1-minute or lower time frame charts on some of the other currency pairs. Not a whole lot setting up right now except for the U.S. dollar, Canadian dollar. However, the euro dollar has been away from the 800 simple moving average for 400 plus candles. And so that means that we are kind of setting up there, and we are getting close to a time when this currency pair is going to need to correct back the other way, at least even briefly. So there's the euro dollar. You should be able to see that. Super okay. let me know if you're able to. Yeah, right. So that's getting close to setting up, but it's not quite there yet. However, the euro dollar on the 15-minute chart is a different story. It is almost ready to go. And if we draw a trend line across the tops of the candles, you get a view that the currency pair, if it breaks and closes above that trend line, is going to get close to breaking and closing above the 200 simple moving average. And that would be a reasonable entry on a buy trade on the euro dollar up to the 800 simple moving average. On my charts anyway, we've been away from the 800 simple moving average for 784 bars. That's 8 days. Anything over 500 is above average. If we get to 1,000, that's when we really want to stand up and take notice, because the currency pair is really then at that point definitely overdue for a correction back up the other way. Mystic Chris is asking us to take a look at the hour chart, and the hour chart is also overextended. So we've got overextension almost on the 5-minute, definitely on the 15-minute, and also on the 1 hour, all pointing to move possibly upward on this currency pair within a reasonably short period of time. This move should probably start to happen within the next 3 to 5 days at the most. And it's purely technical. It's purely based on statistics and technical analysis. And I'm definitely interested in this setup. Not only do we have this sort of combination of time frames that are overextended, we also have the currency pair that made a double bottom down close to the 4,000 round number. So we could see it dip down below there and actually hit the 4,000 number before it does any of this. Boyke says red moving average, and that's the 62 exponential moving average, the same as it is every week. And gives me the idea that, just along the lines of what Mystic FX and Chris has said, that the non-farm payroll report, once it comes out, could be pointing to a non-farm payroll report that causes the euro dollar to go upwards. And who knows, we could see a significant move based on the FOMC minutes that come out this afternoon. My view about the FOMC minutes are that we may see an exhaustion move lower on this currency pair at the time that release comes out. And we could see this currency pair move downwards and a spike really quickly, and that could complete the move downwards that we have seen so far. Money Machine says, I'm new and don't understand the entry setup are you talking about. Can you quickly talk me through the setup for the one for a minute, please? Money Machine, happy to have you here. Welcome. What we're looking at is, in this instance, a 15-minute chart of the euro dollar. And this currency pair chart has the 15-minute 800 simple moving average in black, the 200 simple moving average in blue, and the 62 exponential moving average in red. The currency pair has been away from the 800 simple moving average for 784 bars. Anything over 500 is atypical, abnormal, and is a statistical anomaly. And it makes us start to think about trading the currency pair back up to the 800. Anything over 1,000 candles is excessively overextended and definitely makes us think about trading back to the 800. What we want to do at that point, Mr. or Ms. Money Machine, is wait for the currency pair to break and close above the 200 simple moving average in blue, or break and close above a short-term trend line like we have drawn on the chart right here. And at that point, maybe enter a trade with a buy trade up to the 800 simple moving average and a stop loss down below the lowest lows that the currency pair has made, as it set the whole thing up in the first place. I think today, Chris and I have been talking about bottom feeding. I love the idea of the FOMC minutes causing this currency pair to break down even lower temporarily in some kind of an exhaustion or spike move and then shoot back up the other way. I love that idea. I just think that would be absolutely spectacular. However, we might not get the benefit of that. The report might come out and the currency pair might just hop above these moving averages and above the trend line. I don't remember the pound yen this time last year as well as you do, Chris. However, I remember that it was really low, and I remember that at that bottom we all started to talk about the fact that it was overextended and ready for a run up the other way. And I remember us wanting to get in and hold on to it. And that would be something along the lines of what we're looking at here on the euro dollar. I don't think the euro dollar is necessarily done with its move lower. I think the euro dollar can move lower still. I think that it's possible that it could move another 100 points lower even. So that's just something to be aware of. The FOMC minutes might not set up this trade for a buy just yet, and I think it's premature, and we don't want to buy this currency pair just yet. I think the dollar Canadian, just like we looked at a little while ago, a few moments ago, on the 5-minute chart, is just about ready. And below the trend line, the green trend line, and below the 200 simple moving average, I think this currency pair is ready for a move back down to the 800 simple moving average. I really like that trade. The US dollar Japanese yen 5-minute is not set up. The New Zealand dollar US dollar 5-minute is not set up, or just barely not set up. Looks like the currency pair tried to get back to the 800 simple moving average and didn't quite get there. There's nothing really on that one that I would want to pay attention to. I do want to look at the euro-yen 15-minute chart. Chris and I were talking about this morning. Even on the 5-minute chart, this currency pair is 434 bars away from the 800 simple moving average. So even on the 5-minute chart, it's been away for a while. On the 15-minute chart, however, it's slightly more overextended and definitely ready for the same types of things that we're looking at on the other currency pair. I like the idea of buying this currency pair above a trend line and above the 200 simple moving average. I've just drawn the trend line on my chart right here, and a close above that trend line or a close above the 200 simple moving average in blue would definitely lead to a buy trade all the way up to the 800 simple moving average. I think that would be a pretty interesting trade and could be a really good one. We don't have to do anything with that trade until it closes above those levels. So if it continues to fall, that's perfectly fine. Absolutely okay with that. In any case, a stop loss on the trade could go below the lowest low that the currency pair went before it closed above the moving average and the trend line. And Chris is saying that the trade of the day could be the dollar CAD, and I think there's absolutely positively a lot of truth to that. I think the dollar CAD is the most overextended of the currency pairs and the most ready for a switch. And the 800 simple moving average on this chart is at 128.50. And I guess Ed Ponzi said he'd like to sell this currency pair at that level. And I think that's absolutely brilliant. I think that's absolutely awesome. And I think right now we're in a situation where it's overextended enough that it would be likely and or completely possible for the currency pair to get up there to the 128.50 mark. Yeah, that's awesome. I think shorting the euro-yen would be a perfectly reasonable thing to do. I think the short trade on the euro-yen may be the trade of the year. I think the euro stands to weaken significantly over the course of the year. And I think the short euro-yen trade is absolutely and potentially super awesome, amazing, brilliant. So have no problem with that there at all. Money Machine, do I use any other indicators to get into the trade? No, not necessarily. No. Not for these types of trades, Money Machine. Money Machine. Money Machine. Let's look at the pound Swiss. See what's shaking on the pound Swiss. 15-minute, nothing. 5-minute, nothing. 1 hour, nothing. Sweet. Nothing there. Absolutely nothing there. Why don't we take a request? What currency pair would someone else like to look at? I'd be happy to look at another currency pair. Please don't make it the dollar Canadian, because we already looked at that. Yeah, Australian dollar, US dollar. Sounds absolutely fantastic. Let's get rid of all these indicators. Let's just go see here, and this was my 4-hour chart. Maybe we will. We'll put the template back on here. You can see here the 4-hour chart's breaking down on the Australian dollar, US dollar. I don't want to put the Bollinger Bands up. I want to put the moving average. You'll see here that the Australian dollar, US dollar, has been trying to make an attempt on the 1-hour chart to get back down to the 800 simple moving average. Definitely doing a pretty awesome job of that. The 4-hour has been away from the 800 simple moving average for a zillion years. And the chart's just loading right now, loading back up. I don't know what's taking it so long. But there you go. Now you can see it. The currency pair is almost all the way back at the 800 simple moving average on the 4-hour chart. And it's been away for 2,035 bars. So it will not surprise me if this currency pair over the next week or so makes it all the rest of the way down to the 800 simple moving average, down to 88.75 or so. On the daily chart, I think there are some pretty obvious levels where this currency pair might come to rest. And here's the first one. I think that this trend line matches up nicely with the 800 simple moving average on the 4-hour chart. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, it matches up reasonably well with it. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Australian dollar fall all the way to this trend line that we just drew on the daily chart. Now, we want to go down further and further on this and maybe look at some things, including the 5-minute chart. Somebody asked to look at the Australian dollar, US dollar on the 5-minute chart. Here are some things that I would be looking at on the 5-minute chart. Got a trend line across the tops here and support on the currency pair down here. A break of either one of those levels might lead to something significant and might not lead to anything at all. If we look at the longer-term 15-minute chart, it starts to become a little bit more clear that if we break the first trend line upward, which I will now color blue, if we break above that blue trend line there, it will probably make our way all the way up to the green trend line that I just drew on the 15-minute chart. So that would be a buy trade or a buy position. However, if the currency pair breaks down and falls through this, which now I'll color this. We'll go a different color on the bottom. Let's go orange. If it breaks through this orange trend line on the bottom, then where do we really head? I think first we go down to previous lows around 89.35. Not very far and not a whole lot of movement there. But if you look at the longer term picture on this chart, on this currency pair, we have this level right here, down here at the bottom, this 800 simple moving average on the 4-hour and this trend line from the daily, which would be adequate targets for something like that. So I definitely would pay attention to a breakdown on the short side on the Australian dollar, US dollar. Money Machine asks, do I use software to calculate the distance in pips? The price has moved away from the 800 simple moving average. We have built an indicator, Money Machine, called the Boscillator. designed by me and coded by our friend Monica in Romania. And I do sell that indicator and split the money with Monica, and that's available on my website. But you can also just run your mouse over your candles on MetaTrader, and it can calculate how many candles you've been away from the 800. Well, how many candles have been since you whatever. I mean, you can do this just by looking at it. You don't have to have the indicator. I just made it up, Boyke. It just made up name, just like everything else I do. Let's take a request for another currency pair. What would somebody else like to look at? Be happy to look at another currency pair together with you. Do I have the ZAR? If I have it, I'll be happy to look at it with you. Doesn't look like I have it. Pound US, pound yen, euro pound. Let's do that. I like that. What a great idea. Euro pound 15-minute. This is the euro pound 15-minute chart. It's been away from the 800 simple moving average for 1,550 bars. This is a difficult pair to trade. You don't want to get involved in this pair unless you really feel comfortable with your trading. But this one is overextended and has been away from the 800 simple moving average for quite some time, and it's definitely looking like it's ready for a move back the other way. It just this morning really started to trip out and fall further and further, and barely just evened out a little while ago. I like the idea of buying the currency pair above a trend line, as usual, or a 200 simple moving average, which is not on the chart right now. A buy above this trend line, on the 5-minute chart, could lead us to a trade on the 15-minute chart that gets all the way back up to the 800 simple moving average. I think it's pretty clear also that we have a longer-term trend line here that we can draw. And let's even go out one time frame longer and see what pops up. All right, I got to redraw that trend line. So I think a break above the blue trend line could very quickly lead us to a retest of the green trend line that we drew. And that's about the best short-term profit target on a trade like that I can find. That's actually, I like that trade a bunch. Just seeing if I can get a better view of this trend line. There we go. Yeah, I like that a bunch. Euro pound buy trade above the blue trend line and a profit target at the green trend line, which matches up not really well with the 800 simple moving average. It's below the 800 simple moving average, but it just simply means you'd be out of a trade before it went to the 800, which is not necessarily a big problem or a big deal. What happens if this pair falls, though? This pair has really just gotten kicked in the teeth badly. And you can see that there's a previous low on this currency pair down below 86.50. I think that's right. And that's pretty close to where we are now, right now. If the currency pair closes below that level and breaks below that level, we could see this currency pair retest lows that it hasn't seen for quite some time. You know, back since July of last year, back in the 84.30 or 84.50 mark. We could get all the way back down there. So that would be fascinating. So that's the euro pound for you. Glad that we brought that one up. That's kind of interesting. I'm happy to look at another currency pair. Let's look at something that doesn't have, well, let's look at something different. Give me an idea, folks. Euro Aussie. Phantom. All right. Happy to look at that one. It will just take a moment to load this currency pair. Now, I don't know if this is right. If this is right, then this currency pair has been away from the 800 for a super very long amount of time. Yeah, it's been away for a while. That's absolutely true. I don't know what the actual number is because my number might be off slightly, but it's probably over 1,000 candles very easily. This currency pair has been away for a long time. So let's look at a few techniques for entering this. This pair is traditionally a real pain to trade and can be a real absolute pain in the butt. If you open your trade and just wait forever to get back to your profit target. If the currency pair breaks and closes above our short-term trend line here on the 5-minute chart, perhaps that's a reasonable place to enter and trade it up to. Oh, see, nope. We reviewed. Yeah, it loaded all the data. It's not really that far away. It's back at the 800, so I take all that back. Yeah, that's not actually as far as it looks. It just took time to load the data. So, false alarm. On the 4-hour chart, it's certainly been away from the 800 simple moving average for a long time. But we'll even see if that's accurate. Yeah, Mystic is right. The Euro Aussie can just be just a really horrendous currency pair. Yes, Scott, you might give that currency pair a moment to load all of the data and just make sure that it really is as far away as it looks like at first. Let's see here. Got time for one more currency pair. Why don't I go ahead and take a suggestion? Anything that anybody wants to look at, we'll take another suggestion. Maybe we'll look at the pound Swiss. I'll do the suggestion. Sounds great. Thanks, Rob. That's a good suggestion. Start with the longer term chart. And on the longer term chart, it's been away from the 800 simple moving average for over 1,220 bars or 1,219 bars. That's a long time for the currency pair to be away from the 800 simple moving average. So we are kind of overdue on this currency pair for a move back upwards the other way. If this really starts to move back the other way upwards, it's going to be a big event, and it's going to take over a year to get back there. So not really worth, making a specific trade right this second. On the other hand, the 4-hour chart has just gotten back to the 800 after a long wait to get back. And now it's just kind of ranging back and forth around the 800 simple moving average. A breakout from around the 800 simple moving average is typically a very significant event. And we could draw a box around the 800 like this. If it breaks outside of that box, that's a big deal. And this currency pair could go a lot farther if it breaks outside of that box. That would be a big, very significant occurrence if it broke out of that box. Now, if it breaks out of this box on the short side, that's a major occurrence in the opposite direction. Go down to the 1-hour chart. The 1-hour chart really is going sideways. We are backwards and forwards, waiting for something to happen. I've been looking at a trend line on the short side right here. A break below that level indicates to me that we're just not quite ready to break out and go towards the daily 800 simple moving average, but we might retest the lows all over again. 30-minute and the 15-minute chart are really no different, and not a huge amount of anything happening there. So I'm kind of focused right now on those longer-term views of this currency pair, the fact that it's kind of consolidating and ranging. It's at the 800 on the 4-hour chart, and that could be very interesting. The pound dollar on the 1-minute chart How far has that been away for you, Chris? It's been away for me only about 367 bars. So it's not quite ready to get back to the 800 simple moving average just yet. Although, oh, the pound Swiss 1 minute, great. And that's been away from the 800 for 504 bars. So yeah, to cap it all off, the currency pair is beginning to be overextended on the buy side on the 1 minute chart and kind of needs a trip back down to the 800 simple moving average. So that's pretty cool. I like. Any last questions or comments, folks, on anything that we've done this morning? It's been great to spend some time with you this morning. Really definitely enjoyed it. Sorry for the audio problems to start us all off. I just think HotCom just hates me, and so I have no idea what I'm doing wrong, but I'm sure it's my fault. And certainly try to get there a little bit earlier next week. But even if I do, Ed's not finished up yet. So anyway, I'll try to get there a little bit earlier and test a little bit earlier. Ronnie says his boss later shows different values. What could the reason be? Ronnie, if your boss later shows different values, it is most likely the case that your boss later screen indicator on inputs has an offset that's different than mine. I would adjust your offset to 30 instead of probably 50 and see what that does. That will automatically change how it appears. Also, different currency, different brokers will have different exact readings. But I am almost positive that in the case of the pound Swiss daily chart, that the entire reason can be attributed to the offset setting. And there's not one way that's right and one way that's wrong. It's just there are differences in the offset. I use 30 for everything, and that should make the difference. Well, everybody, it's been great to spend time with you this morning. I'm excited to spend time with you today. I'll be here next week again and can't wait to look at the charts together with you. I'll try to be here even earlier next week, and we'll do some tests. And Maud, you're always more patient with me. You're so nice. Thanks for all you do, everybody. Thanks to FX Street. Thanks to Adinda. Really appreciate everything that you do. And we'll see you next week, everybody. Have a good day.